Hello there! Welcome to What Does Star Wars Mean to You, the show where we talk to all kinds of fans of Star Wars to take the hate out of the debate and look at the franchise from a certain point of view, one fan at a time. Today, our guest is P.A. Cornell. She's an award-winning speculative fiction author. Her book, Shoeshine Boy Cigarette Girl, is out now. And August sees the release of her sci-fi fantasy short fiction collection, Astronaut Among the Flowers and Other Stories. But she's also a lifelong Star Wars fan, and that's why we're talking to her today. So, let's go meet P.A. Cornell. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I like the t-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, I got to wear my Star Wars today, so I don't always get to do that in my interviews.
That's fair. It's encouraged here.
Yeah, it's encouraged here. It's required.
It's kind of required here.
We would have immediately kicked you out of the Zoom if you didn't have a Star Wars t-shirt on.
I figured.
And then our first question for all our guests is, are you ready to share with the world, what does Star Wars mean to you, PA?
Yes.
Perfect. Our 5 with the Force, we're going to jump in. Of all the Star Wars movies, which is your comfort favorite?
There's probably 2. I think because
Okay.
for my early life, it was probably A New Hope, just because that was my introduction into the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And that remained a constant for a long time. But then it was kind of semi-dethroned by Rogue One, which I also really loved. And so it's kind of a toss-up between those 2. I know everyone
That's
says
fair.
Empire, but it's and I love Empire, but
Yeah.
but I have a soft spot for those 2.
That's the great thing about having a comfort one, is it doesn't have to be the best one. It's just the one you go to where you're like, I just need some fun right now.
Totally.
I was going to say, too, I really respect that one of your comfort Star Wars is Rogue One, because
Yes.
that is true for me, too. And I think sometimes folks hear that and they're like, well, that's intense. And it's like, nope, it's actually, there's something calming about it.
Yes.
It's all coming together. That's funny. What or who is your favorite? Roll a d6
Ooh.
for me, Dave.
4.
4, a droid.
I'd probably have to go with R2, just
That's
the
fair.
classics. I mean, there's so many great ones, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna be boring and go with R2.
That's not boring.
Yeah.
R2 is a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
What is your favorite line to quote, if you have one?
Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
Oh,
I love
like
that one.
Yes.
Great one.
Yes.
Great
There's
choice.
a lot of good Yoda-isms, but that one's my fave.
I love that you had that at the tip of your tongue, too. You
Yeah.
were like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
it.
well, I actually say it sometimes. It's so corny, but yeah. So
No, I love
yeah,
that.
that one stuck with me.
Besides the films, what is your favorite Star Wars content? And it doesn't have to be TV. It could be anything in the Star Wars universe.
I'm gonna go real old school and say the radio plays. I
Yes.
love the radio plays.
Oh,
Yeah, like I remember listening to like those early ones in like the late 70s as like a little kid eating my cereal and listening to that over breakfast. So that's just like it's a big one for me.
That's awesome.
Have you listened to them since at all?
Maybe about like 6 or 7 years back, I listened to a little bit with one of my kids.
Yes.
Not like a full one. I think it was like the New Hope, radio
Yes.
version.
Yeah,
I
the
do
NPR.
have them in print though, all 3 of them. So
Oh,
that's kind of cool.
wow.
It's like the full screenplays of them, or
Yes.
not screenplays, audio plays or whatever. So
I have never heard these, and I'm getting an idea for a
Oh,
cantina
they're
chatter
so
down the
good.
road where
Yes,
we
yes,
listen to
yes,
these
we're gonna have
and
to
we
do that.
react.
Yeah. Because like the acting is like, because it's radio, it's so kind of over the top, like the way they
Yep.
Yeah.
like extra expressive, like it's extra, like it's just
It is.
Oh,
really
I
is.
love a
It's
radio opera.
they're
That's awesome.
so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can track them down, you definitely should.
Yes, yes. I used to have them on tape, and I listened to them when I drove cross country from the East Coast to the West Coast. And
What?
yeah, I used to listen to all the time. I used to deliver food like back in the 2000s, and I would have them playing while I was driving around Los Angeles delivering food.
That's
Oh my
awesome.
God.
They're
Okay,
fantastic.
you guys are
Yes.
like bringing me into a whole
The
new
actors they
universe of
got
Star
are
Wars. I'm
pretty
very
good. I mean, I
excited.
think Anthony Daniels was involved,
Yes.
but like the rest
Mhm.
were like other actors,
I
and they
think it was
did an amazing job. Like,
Anthony Daniels and Mark Hamill were
oh, was Mark
at
also
least
in it? Okay.
in A New Hope. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you might be right.
Wow.
It's been a while since I looked into the credits, but yeah, I think that
Yeah.
sounds about right.
Wow. Very cool. Sorry, I got
Yeah.
sucked into that. This is supposed
Yeah.
to be semi-rapid fire, but
Yeah.
like I now just want to talk radio with you. Our last of the five with the Force, from all time, if you could choose any author to write a Star Wars story, who would you choose?
Who hasn't already? Or
Yeah, who hasn't
Ooh,
already? And it could
yeah.
be anyone
Um,
like what is his name? 1840s writer. You know, he came in with the comment and left with the comment. Mark Twain. It could be like Mark Twain, or it could be
oh, that
any.
would be hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
Ernest Hemingway.
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 Yeah, I'm going with Hemingway. That would be awesome.
Okay, great. I love it. That's a very good Star Wars baseline we just got from you.
Yes, it is.
You know, Dave's like truly laughing when he starts coughing.
Yes. So I just want to I feel like now I want to take the whole episode and think about what Hemingway would write as an author of Star Wars.
Oh, that'd be
We might have to have you
good.
back just to do
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Or somebody who wrote noir or something would be really cool. Like,
yes, like a crime author.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
it's like gritty Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. So, what was your introduction?
Back to you.
Yeah, back to you. What was your introduction to Star Wars, and can you take us through that experience?
It's hard to say because I'm like, Star Wars came out when I was 2.
Wow.
So in a way, it's kind of always just been there. So I don't have
Yes.
like a defining, yes, I remember being in the theater for this. I do remember going to see Empire, but by then I was already familiar with A New Hope. So I must have seen it at some point because I remember not being lost. I knew who the characters were and everything. So I do remember being in the theater for that. But yeah, it was just kind of always a part of my life.
Were your parents into Star Wars at all? Or was that something that was more specifically you within the family?
I think my parents were into movies. And this was
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
something new and different. And they'd seen like kind of older science fiction stuff and liked it. So I guess they just, they must have heard all the hype around Star Wars and decided to go see it. And they didn't have babysitters at the time, so we went along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother would have been he was 4 years older than me. So
Oh,
he would
wow.
have been 6. And my dad actually tells a story where my brother had to go to the bathroom, so he had to take him, and he missed the part where Obi-Wan dies. So he came
Oh.
back, and Obi-Wan's not there, and he had no idea what had happened to him. And he didn't know for years because this was back when, you wouldn't see
Yes.
the movie again for, at least another year.
Yes.
Till it was on TV. So yeah.
Oh my God. No one told him.
Yes.
He was just kind of like, what happened to the old guy? Sorry for the spoiler for anyone who didn't know Obi-Wan.
Yeah, spoiler alert. 50-year-old spoiler alert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oops, my bad.
That's so funny. So it comes out, you see it in the theaters with your family. Then what did your love of Star Wars look like? How did it affect your day-to-day as you kind of became your own fan?
I mean, as a kid, for sure, I would play, that I was one of the characters. I always played pretend games with my friends and stuff. And like I said, my older brother, was also into it. So, I mean, we grew up in the generation where pretty much every kid was into it. Not as
Yeah.
much girls, maybe, but definitely the boys were. And, I'd go play with the boys. And, sometimes I was Leia because they'd make me be Leia. Sometimes I was Han or Luke or whatever, and did that. So that's kind of how it started, kind of ignited my passion for just science fiction in general.
In your bio, there's a mention that you're into Lego.
Mhm.
Are you into Star Wars Lego? Is that part of the Lego
I like it.
obsession?
I don't really have Star Wars Lego much. I mostly have done just generic space Lego.
Oh, cool.
Which I love, and I've always loved, since it was the 80s space Lego.
Yes,
I loved it.
spaceship.
So, yeah. So I do have I do like the Star Wars stuff, but it's like a lot of it's really, really expensive or
Yeah.
whatever, or it's big and I just don't have anywhere to fit it. So I haven't really gotten it for that. But I mean, I don't know. I like never say never. I totally would. Like, maybe a small ship or something. Yeah, I totally wouldn't be upset if somebody got one as a gift or something for Mother's Day or whatever.
Like, hint, hint.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. No, I hint. It falls on deaf ears every time.
You've got a week.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little earlier that it inspired your interest in sci-fi. Did you write fan fiction for any Star Wars fan fiction, or is it something more like sci-fi interested you and Star Wars was that doorway?
Yeah, I think it's more like sci-fi interested me, like, and Star Wars was part of that doorway. Like, it was definitely probably
Yeah.
the first because I saw a lot of things early on. Like, I remember seeing Alien when I was much, much too young to see that,
Yeah, I
and
think
a
we all
bunch of
did.
other sci-fi too that I was probably too young for. But yeah, like, that kind of started it, and I think largely it was just, like, the settings in Star Wars that really
Mm-hmm.
got me, and that's
Yeah.
part of the reason that I like A New Hope, because I just love, like, Tatooine and, just I'm a big desert person, so that's,
Oh.
that kind of like, "Oh, I wanna create worlds like that," So, I
Mhm.
didn't really write, like, Star Wars fan fiction, but when I started writing, it was definitely kind of in the space opera, kinda like in the same
Yes.
vein sorta thing.
Yes.
So, for sure inspired.
What is it about the desert world that attracts you, or desert in general?
I mean, I don't know, I just love that landscape, like, I love Mars, I don't know, it
Mm-hmm.
might be like, my mom grew up in the desert in Chile, in the Atacama, and I don't know, maybe it's genetic, like,
That's like my
like,
dream
it's
trip. Oh, I
just
love
in
that.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't quite say what it is I like about it's just maybe so, like, alien looking even when it's on our world, like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just different, so, I've always lived in cities and, and I'm in, like, in the part of Ontario that I'm in, it's very green and, like,
Mhm.
there's waterfalls and whatever, so it's very different from that, so I guess the
Yes.
contrast with what I'm used to is part of the appeal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, opposite of Anakin, you like sand.
I do. Not when it gets into everything, though, we agree there.
Yes. Yeah. I, I
That's his real villain origin story is the sand that
Sand.
finally
Yeah,
turned
yeah.
him
yes,
crazy.
Can
exactly.
you blame the guy?
Um, and I think we touched upon this a little bit, but do you consider Star Wars? Do you still use Star Wars as a bit of an inspiration? Do you still
Mm.
derive inspiration from it, or is it something more like you're a fan of and you understand where it is within your professional world of being a writer?
I think it probably does inspire me on some level. Like, I don't consciously, sit there and think, "Oh, I'm gonna write something, that's very
Yes.
Star Warsy or whatever." I probably could if I decided to do that, but, I think it's more like parts of Star Wars, for instance, are very, like, character driven or thematically, it's got these really deep, like, themes and stuff. So, like, that kind of thing probably does kind of infuse itself into, like, my style of writing, at least a bit. So that,
Yes. Yes.
with that sort of thing.
Do you read the Star Wars books or
I
comic
did.
books?
I used to, like I mean, I always say, like, "Gather round, kids." Like, there was a time when we
Yes.
were in a Star Wars drought, and there was
Yes.
really nothing, and then Timothy Zahn came out with these novels, and, like, I was devouring them in the '90s, and, it was basically like a new Star Wars book would come out, and I had to go get it on hardcover and,
Yes.
Oh,
not
yeah.
wait. So I'd be reading those, and I did that probably for at least a good decade, and I had, like, a lot of the books, and then eventually I just, I went off to college and whatnot, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
priorities changed a little, so I wasn't really buying things that much. I did have some graphic novels. I would buy stuff like a lot of the art books and things, and then, basically, like, after I had kids, like, I had too many books, I didn't know where I was gonna put them all, so
Mhm.
I purged a bunch, and so a lot of
Yep.
the Star Wars ones did go. I did keep some. I kept all the art books. I kept some of my favorites or some of the more rare ones. But then the rest I gave to a friend of mine's teenage son,
Uh-huh.
'cause my kids weren't interested. So,
Oh, no.
starting the new generation of Star Wars fans,
Exactly.
so,
Exactly.
and, he's enjoying them now, I guess, so But yeah, so I did for a while, but I kind of got out of that now. I haven't really read the books in quite a while at this point.
I feel like with your excitement over the Timothy Zahn books, I experienced that as well. Where like from 85 to 92 ish, there was just nothing, and all of a sudden these books appeared. Do you remember how you found out about the book?
I
About the first
do.
book?
Yeah, actually, I think the second one was out when I found out about them. And my brother had borrowed them from a friend of his, and he read them and whatever. And then he had to return them. And I had one weekend to read both books.
Oh
And we were
wow!
going to my aunt's house and whatever. So I brought them to my aunt's and I was just sitting and reading the entire time, like just ignoring everybody so I could get through these books. And then of course I
Yes.
went out and bought them and bought the third one when it came out. Yeah, so
Wow. I ask because I'm always fascinated about like how did I discover things before the internet?
Yeah.
Like I'm not in my like in the 90s I wasn't in my own social bubble, so things
mhm.
aren't just fed up to me. And I just find it interesting how people discovered things back
Yeah,
when.
for sure. It was much harder, like,
Yes.
very dependent on word of mouth, so,
You had
Yeah.
to know
yeah.
some cool people.
Yes. Yes.
Or be the cool person.
I mean, I spent a lot of time in bookstores anyway, so I'm sure I would have
Yeah.
come across them at some point, but that, it just happened to be that he'd borrowed them at that point, so
Yes.
Right.
Now, one of the things your bio said is you write speculative fiction.
mhm.
Can you just briefly describe what that means for our listeners?
Yeah, I basically write, like, science fiction, fantasy, and horror in that
Mm-hmm.
order.
Mhm.
So,
All
so
at
yeah, I mean,
once
that's
or like broken up
I
or
mean, just
different combinations?
it depends on what I feel inspired in, like where the
Yes.
story
Mhm.
wants to take me, that's where I go with. So it kind of just whatever. I tend to mostly write science fiction just because it's my favorite, so that's what I do, and all the various subgenres and all that. So, and I read just a ton of like genre fiction and outside of
Hmm.
genre as well too. So there's a lot of that. And I guess like in general, like it's called speculative fiction because it speculates on like, what
Yep.
our world could be or whatever. It's especially like in science fiction, it's kind of like looking to the future or to
Hmm.
other possibilities, that sort of thing. So
With speculative fiction, I always think of it as I always think of more historical speculative fiction, like alternate history.
right.
Um, but there's also that future looking where it's like, what if we take this path? Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, you can go in any direction or sideways
Yeah.
to other worlds, or whatever. So it's really about, what if, or if this goes on, what would,
Yeah.
result from
What's the
that or
product?
whatever. Or what if
Yeah.
this had been different? So, I
It's
mean, it's all good. It's all cool.
one of your most recent book, Shoeshine Boy and Cigarette Girl. I love that title. I love those kind of names. And to me, and to bring it back to Star Wars, I'm going to say it feels very Star Warsian to me to
Mhm.
have that kind of, and I think that's a bigger thing of like it feels like 50s serial kind of
Yeah.
Flash Gordon
They kind of
sounding.
have roots in the same, they're like cousins, I guess.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're like cousins,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Where did you get those names? Because like, were you
Yeah.
just sitting around going, you know what, it'd be funny if there was a shoeshine boy and who would he meet?
That's
Or,
kind of basically it, only I started with Cigarette Girl, but
yes.
yeah,
Okay.
I was like I was sitting around going like, "Oh, isn't it like a funny thing that we don't really have cigarette girls anymore, What a quaint little thing about the
Yeah.
past and stuff." And then it just kind
Yes.
of, went to this thing. And when I wrote the story, I just kept their, quote unquote names as Shoeshine Boy and Cigarette Girl because they're essentially archetypes. And in that sense, it's very
Yes.
Star Warsian because like Star Wars
Mhm.
is filled with characters that are archetypes. So yeah, I mean, I can see like the relationship there. But yeah, it started with that, and what kind of world would they inhabit, and that
Yes.
sort of thing if these characters existed, and just kind of went from there.
I think you nailed it with archetypes and why I felt like that title is cousins with Star Wars because of the archetype.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things you mentioned that you work in sci-fi, horror, and fantasy.
In that
one of
order.
Sometimes combining them as well.
And sometimes combining, yes.
Mm.
One of the things I believe about Star Wars is that it has the ability to hold any genre within its universe to tell a Star Wars story. If you were able to write a Star Wars story in any era of Star Wars and in any genre, what would you like to write? Or what do you think you'd like to write?
It'd be pretty cool to do like Western style or something
Yes.
A New Hope kind of has that bit of that vibe.
Yeah.
And again, noir, would be awesome. I don't really write those, but it'd be so fun to like do the sci-fi version of that.
Yes.
I mean, I guess in a way, like Cowboy Bebop is kind of like noir sci-fi a little bit, So
Yeah,
like
yes.
get stuff like that. So it'd be a little bit like that. I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean,
There's a lot of characters that lend themselves to that, and you really could do kind of anything with them.
And we're back in the desert.
Yeah,
and we're
exactly.
back in the desert. You're right.
For sure. See? That's totally what I'd do then.
Through your work in speculative fiction, through your fandom of Star Wars, what do you think sci-fi and speculative fiction reveal about ourselves, about our human condition, about our real world? And is that too leading of a question?
No, I don't think it's too leading. I think it's almost like a mirror, like it reflects back to us what we are or what we could be or whatever you're trying to convey in a way that's almost like, I guess like the best example I can think of in a way is like the Twilight Zone, where you'd get like all these really weird stories,
Yes.
but like the theme was so relevant to what was going on at the time in our world.
Yes.
So it had a lot to say about that. And so I feel like we're still in a way kind of doing that. Like it's almost metaphorical. In some cases it's blatantly metaphorical. So, I guess that's kind of what it does. It kind of makes you think about like this situation, how does it apply to me in a way that's kind of just really easy for people to digest.
Yes, yes. Do you feel as though if we took Andor and put that aside and maybe just focused on the movies, do you think the Star Wars movies provide a mirror to our world, or is it more archetypes and space wizards and fun from your point of view?
I really think it depends on how you look at it. Like, just from my point of view, I mean, I think there are things that can apply. Some of it is sure like pure entertainment, and you can just sit down and just watch it as pure entertainment. But if you want to look at deeper meanings, I'm sure there's things that like stand out. Like that's like, with my favorite line being, luminous beings are
Yes.
we. Because I really do believe that we're much more than our packaging,
Yes.
we're spiritual people. That even if you don't think of yourself as a spiritual person, like you're a soul, walking around in a meat package, and there's more to you than that.
Yes. 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 That's awesome.
What do you think is the most maybe like important thing to take from what Star Wars is trying to tell us right now? If you had to kind of lean on a singular theme.
I want to say that it's kind of like just keeping in mind like other people's needs, not just your own selfish needs. Like Star Wars is very much about creating a world or defending a world from being, exploitative or whatever. Like, they want a world in which everyone can kind of just live their life in peace and be able to whatever, like just live their life and achieve whatever they can achieve and be left alone to do that. I would love to see that in our world, like just kind
Yes.
of more of that where we all, we have our basic needs met maybe, and, we can have a dream or two, maybe some, like, even if they're small dreams and it's
Yeah.
not unrealistic, whatever. So it'd just be nice if like that sort of thing of keeping it not just your own selfish needs, but how do we create a society in which everyone can kind of thrive, as much as they possibly can. So
Yes. Yeah. I say that in a little more I'm going to just say it this way, in a little more ignorant way. Every time I talk politics with my mom, I'm like, it's people just want to be able to watch TV. at the end of the
Yeah.
day. You know,
That's so true.
if you give them that,
Yeah.
society will be
happy.
much happier. Yeah.
Yeah, we all just
It-
want to be content, really, is what it comes
Yes.
down to, you know?
Comfortable. Yeah.
Right. It's like, and
Yeah.
anything else is kind of like the cherry on top, but, you know, as long as we're
Yes.
just kind of okay, we're good. Like,
Yeah.
it's not so much to ask, is it?
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
What would you like to see in the future of Star Wars' universe then? What have we not
Um,
explored that you're like, we need this?
I don't know. Like, I don't know that if I'd say really that we haven't. I'm sure there's stuff I'm not thinking of that I'll think of later. But
Sure.
I think even with the things that we have explored, like I do love seeing, for instance, Star Wars is much more diverse in the human characters than it was when I was a kid.
Yes.
So I would love to see more of that, you know, more people of color, more women, you know, it sucks that the actors are getting harassed on the internet because
Yes.
of that. But for
Mhm.
some of us, we didn't see ourselves represented when we were younger. And as much as I loved the original movies, there were no Chileans in it. And now we have the Mandalorian. So, you know, I can actually point to that person and say, you know, Pedro Pascal is one of us. Like, you know, so
Yeah.
more of that for sure. You know, maybe we need Lux Pascal in there next. So, you
That'd be pretty cool.
know.
Pedro,
Yeah.
if you're listening.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess it's Disney if you're listening. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
I feel like he's got to have some arm twisting capability
But
there. You would
yes,
think.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know if Lux would want to do that, but like, you know, maybe
Who knows?
she is an actor, so
With a name like Lux, I mean,
yeah,
it's right there.
a great
It's a
name,
movie
isn't
star
it?
name.
It is. Earlier, you had mentioned that sometime this is in talking about representation. You had mentioned that when you were a kid, your brother would make you be Leia, but sometimes you were Han, sometimes you were Luke. Did you feel like did you feel as though Leia represented you at all, just on a female level, or were you just more into the archetypes of like the naive teenager, the princess, or the I'm trying to not put genders towards the
Mhm.
archetypes, like Han Solo being a gambler and a smuggler, Princess Leia being noble and intelligent,
Mhm.
Luke being whiny and
No.
I love whiny Luke. That's
what is it about
Cornell is
whiny
so
Luke
good
that
at
you
that.
love?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. He should be annoying, but I don't know. I love whiny Luke. I don't think it was so much the archetypes of it. Like it kind of like if I was playing with my friends as a kid or whatever the scene called for, I wanted to be the coolest character in that scene.
Yes.
So it didn't really matter to me what their gender was or whatever. I wasn't into princesses as a kid. Like I was just that wasn't my thing. Nothing wrong with that, but just wasn't me. So that wasn't the appeal of Leia to me. I liked how strong she was.
Yes.
You know, all my favorite like female sci-fi characters were like, you know, like Leia, Ripley, you know,
Yes.
who am I thinking of now? Like Linda Hamilton and like Terminator and whatever. That just
Sarah
these
Connor.
were all like tough women, and they don't need to be masculine or anything for that. Like
No.
Leia was never masculine; she was also very feminine, but still she was strong. She didn't take any crap. You know, she rescued herself essentially from the Death Star.
Yes.
So like this was like
Yes.
a great example to have as a kid. So
It's funny because until we're talking about it right now, I don't think besides the title, I never really thought of Princess Leia as a princess, like as a Disney princess, I guess. You know, it's like that, like a Snow White, or I don't even know. Yeah, Snow White was a princess.
Well, she wasn't the damsel in distress.
Yeah, she wasn't the damsel,
Yeah.
but
she was definitely not your mother's princess. You know. Like,
yes. I think that's a good way of phrasing it. What are the top 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
I don't know. I think, well, one of the things is definitely just like how like lived in it all feels. Like it just
Yes.
always felt really real to me. Like this could have existed a long time ago, you know? So that is definitely one thing. And just kind of going hand in hand with that, like how like diverse it is, just like in terms of like, there's humans, there's aliens, there's like,
Yes.
they have different jobs, they're from different planets, and like they sometimes have different needs because of these things and whatever. So that again felt very real to me. And I think when I was like starting out as a science fiction writer, I was thinking about that kind of stuff because it had been put into my brain as a kid watching the movies and whatever. So I would think, if I was from a world like this, what would it be like if I'm on a different world that, how would I have to adapt to that or whatever,
Yes.
or vice versa if someone's coming to my world or whatever. So that sort of thing for sure. So those things, I don't know, I can't really think of anything else, but I like definitely those two things come to mind of just like the realism of something that is obviously so fantastical when you watch it,
Yes.
but it's
Yeah.
like, it's plausible somehow, if you really
Well,
think about it. And
I
I like my science fiction kind of wild, but at the same
Mhm.
time, like with a little like science behind it, kind of like this could, if
Yes.
you really stretch the definitions of science, it's believable. So
I think one of the things with George Lucas's kind of vision or direction, his producership, that stands out to me is his ability to guide creatives into designing something that when you look at it, you go, oh, that makes sense that would work. Like the X-Wings look like they could fly.
for
And
sure.
what know
All
where the
those
canopy is, you know where
practical
the
effects,
nose.
especially.
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah, and, like, well, yeah, I did think of one more thing was, just the music behind it, so
Oh,
shout out to John
yes.
Williams is just it wouldn't be what it is without John Williams, so, like, we
Yes.
can't neglect to say that, and I'm always, like, dreading that he's, what, 96 now or something? Like, he's
Yes.
No, is he
He's
really?
up
yeah,
there, yeah, he's
yeah.
still working, doing a movie with Spielberg right now,
Yes.
and,
Him.
Yes.
and I'm just like, "Don't ever die," like, just kidding,
Yeah.
forever, because what are we gonna do without you?
Talk about like a candidate for cryogenics or whatever.
Yes.
Like-
Let's somehow figure this out, guys. It's
Speaking
not
of
too late.
sci-fi.
Yeah.
Put his brain into a computer so that you can get
Yeah.
music anytime you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. I love how you said that Star Wars feels lived in, and that's what gives it its long time ago feel. I don't know. That really I was like, oh, it is. It's so believable. It is so lived in. It knows exactly what it is.
Yeah, and before Star Wars, like sci-fi was pretty clean, everything was
Yeah.
like really spotless and like it didn't feel like anyone had like you had
It was
just walked
sterile.
into this, right, exactly. Like no one had been
Yeah.
living there for years, whereas like it's Star Wars was the opposite of that. So
I
yeah.
like that.
I mean, by today's standards, A New Hope may feel a little slow, but it really, it dropped you into the action and was like,
Yeah.
here you go, no explanation, have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard for people to understand just how innovative it was for its time, like how drastically different because so much has come like from that now that we're kind of familiar with that. And you can look at it and be like, "Oh, I don't really get what the big deal is about this movie." But like even though I was very young like when that first happened and whatever, it was very different for the people who were older at that time seeing that. They'd never seen anything like it. So,
Yeah. Movies were also so differently paced. Like,
Yes.
films from when I was a kid in the 90s too. Like, there's like the first, second act, and then like I think movies of today kind of end after that first like rising action. But then there's always this like third act that goes on for much longer and it's much differently paced. And you're like, oh, wait, I thought this movie was ending. And it's actually like there's another piece to this story. I think, I don't know if kids today recognize that that's just that is how stories were told. They were much more in depth. Like, and so for something like Star Wars to come out at, a similar pace structure, but like be so to be so innovative, that would leave a very big impact. Because movies like that were not being made. Like,
no, there were sci-fi people weren't really taking it seriously. It certainly wasn't something everyone was lining up around the block to watch. I mean, that's literally where the word blockbuster came from.
Yeah.
So, so it was different. And it's funny that you say that it's slow paced when you go back and watch it. And yes, then, but at the time it was almost more fast paced than what people were used to because so much was happening on the screens, the space battles and whatever, It's just slow now compared to what
to attention
now we need,
spans needing to be
exactly,
so
for sure.
yeah.
So, I mean, if somebody like really young was to tell me like, "Oh, this movie's so boring and whatever," I get it. I get why they, but
Yes.
you had to
Yeah, I
be there,
agree.
kids.
Yeah.
That's such a bummer to think about. Yeah, that like our attention spans have been so weakened.
Mhm.
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing because I think it's a natural evolution, possibly in visual storytelling, where once you kind of establish Star Wars, like, okay,
Mhm.
it's almost like taking down preconceptions of what the audience can handle. Like
Mhm.
Star Wars, I think A New Hope felt fast paced back then, not just because it was faster paced, but also
Mhm.
like you start out with a spaceship and no explanation of
Yeah.
where it's going, why it's going there,
Right, that never
who.
happened before. So.
Yeah, and so it's like this shortcut in storytelling, and then
Yeah.
people realize, okay, you can have that shortcut. Let's make it shorter. Let's make it shorter. Let's make it shorter. And so
Yeah.
you get to the point now where,
Just
like,
jump cut.
yeah,
Yeah,
just jump
for sure.
cut,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Superman.
I think you can still do slow pace now in film, but it's holding the viewer's attention
Yes,
has changed. So I'm thinking, for instance,
yes,
of like Project Hail Mary, the opening is
Just thought the same
pretty
thing.
long. It
Yeah.
takes quite a while to kind of really get into the action because he's got to learn the language and whatever.
yes.
But people are still loving it. They're sitting through it and
Mhm.
watching it and whatever and enjoying it because they're gripped by whatever, like the relationship between the two main characters and whatever. So there are ways to do that, but that has definitely had to change because we
Yeah.
Yes.
just don't have the patience. Even those of us who are older, we've lost that. Like we don't want to have to sit through boring nothing for a while, like
Yeah.
maybe if it's like an old favorite, sure, we'll return to it. But if it's a new movie, we wanna, let's get going.
Well, yeah, I always feel
That's
that,
funny.
like, if I'm watching a movie, let's just say a sci-fi movie where aliens are gonna show up, and you see the trailer, the aliens have shown up, and you're seeing the results. If you then, like, go to the movies and spend 30 minutes before the aliens show up, you're like, "When does this movie start?"
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
Mm.
You wanna see the aliens.
yeah,
That's
yeah, I
why.
wanna see the aliens, I wanna
Yeah,
get there.
for
I
sure.
think Hail Mary is a different kind, like, I'm talking more like action, adventure, fun
Mhm.
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
Hail
that's
Mary is
definitely
more of
kind of
a
a
thoughtful,
unique one.
philosophical.
Yeah.
It is unique. But I think
Mhm.
that says a lot about the importance of the story, and that's why
Yeah.
Star Wars was
Yes.
so successful, is that in its story, it had a lot of depth. It wasn't just surface level. Here's aliens and an
Yeah.
explosion and, like, a
Yes.
girl who's wearing a very
Yeah.
impractical outfit that's fighting these aliens and, like,
Mhm.
the comic book of it all versus maybe more of like a novel.
Do you
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be one or the other, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
sure, we
Yes.
all love, car chases and explosions and whatever else, but you also like, there's no reason that there can't also be, like, a deeper, like, human
Right.
story in there. Like, people are obviously it's resonating with people, so
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think the Star Wars universe is large enough to hold a story so, not small, but intimate as Hail Mary? Like, could we have an enemy mine in the Star Wars universe, a kind of a very I d Hail Mary is tough because it's a very large story, but also,
Mhm.
and that's why I use the word intimate, because it's also kinda, it's just about these 2, beings trying to work together.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely think you could do a small story like that. Like, I feel like you could almost do anything in the Star
Yeah,
Wars universe. So you could
yeah.
Mhm.
like, for instance, if you would take, when Luke goes to Dagobah, and if you made that its own contained story of, like, everything he's
Yes.
doing while training with Yoda, that could have been its own thing. It's really just more like, do the people making these films wanna take a chance on something, like, that's so small and contained? I could see them doing that for TV. I don't know if I could see them doing
Yes.
that, like, for a cinematic release. You'd really have to trust your audience to love it. But in some ways, that's a little bit like what Andor is too. Like,
Yes.
obviously, they did a couple of seasons of it, but it's really like grounded and like really like there's no you don't really see like too much like Jedi's or anything. It's just like the regular people in the Star Wars world and what they're dealing with, like with the politics and just trying to survive. So in a
Yeah.
way, that's a smaller contained story too. It does get bigger, obviously. It
Yes.
leads to the movies. Um, but it shows that it is kind of doable to do that, to make it like, and that's the kind of science fiction that I really like. A lot of what I write takes kind of like a big crazy trope or whatever, and but like from the point of view of like if it was just you or me having to deal with this insane situation. So like one
Yes.
story that comes to mind that I wrote is about an alien invasion, but it's not really about the alien invasion. It's really more about these people who are kind of like, we don't have a chance against these aliens. Like this is it for us. So what are we going to do in our final moments?
Oh,
And
wow.
and it's just kind of like about them just kind of coming together and supporting each other through this crazy situation, So, um, and for sure you could do that sort of thing in Star Wars. Like, yeah, like I'd
What's
love to see that because that's like right up my alley. So,
what's the name of your story that
that one is called 440 Broad Street, Apartment 4C,
Oh, wow.
because it takes place like in that apartment. So,
You have this great. I don't. I'm going to say alliteration, but that simplifies what I'm thinking because I also think that's to me that's like a title. That's a very grippy title. Like you hear it and it feels like it implies so much, just like Shoeshine Boy, Cigarette Girl, and Shoeshine Boy.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite Star Wars memory?
My favorite Star Wars memory. I think I want to say going to see Return of the Jedi, which
Oh.
I would have been, I don't know how old then. When did that come out?
Probably about 83.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I would have been about 8. So it's perfect age, I think.
Yeah.
But I remember going to the theater and they gave us like a book. It was like a making of book to everybody
Oh.
who showed up. Yeah, I wish I still had it. And so it had like some of the concept art, it described the characters and whatever. And I was like so jazzed about this book. Like I remember holding on to it through the movie. And I love the movie and everything, but the book was like this thing I got to keep and it was pretty
Yes.
big. Like and it was just the
Wow.
coolest thing. Like you just don't get stuff like that anymore.
No.
Like no freebies. Like now they'd make you pay all kinds of money to buy it in a bookstore.
Yes.
It would come
But,
with the popcorn bucket that was the
yeah.
size of your head, and yeah.
So I think I just love that because, like, as a kid, I was just so excited about getting this thing that I got to take home and like keep the movie
Wow.
with me, basically, in a way. Which, like I was saying, like back then, you didn't get to see the movie right away, like a couple weeks later or
Right.
something. Like if unless you went back to the theater, you'd have to
Yeah.
wait minimum a year for it to come on TV, and it's like maybe you catch it, maybe you don't. So
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
something where I could still kind of keep reliving the adventure. So as a kid, that was just like the greatest thing ever. And I think that's why that stuck with me.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Interesting.
I gotta Google that book now because that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even know if it had a
Yeah.
name or anything but I know that it was with Return of the Jedi. And so it had
That's
like I
awesome.
remember like I can visualize like a picture of like
Mhm.
Jabba with like Leia in her gold bikini and stuff. Like
Yes.
it had all that like cool stuff. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
and
sure
how fun
some collector must have some of that
Yes.
somewhere. Like it's got to be
It's like
somewhere.
$1,500 on eBay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's-
Yeah, it's got to be super rare because I don't think that that was like mass produced really that much. But
Yeah. The fantastic swag.
yeah,
And how cool that you ended up as an author. That like that
Oh,
was
yeah.
such like that's your
Yes,
favorite
yes,
Star Wars memory, that you took
yes.
the book home and that the book
Oh,
was
yeah.
like the continuation of that journey. Like what a spark.
I was already on that path then because I decided
Sure.
to become I decided to become an author when I was 5. So I was already thinking like,
Oh wow.
this is what I'm gonna do. And I knew I wanted to write like fiction and like science fiction, whatever, because
Yep.
that's what I loved. Like I was saying, when I played pretend with my kids or with my friends, it would be that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm already creating these worlds, and I was always the storyteller for my friends, like taking control of how we were gonna play and whatever. So it was just it was innate already.
I'm just curious, what other sci-fi loomed large in your childhood that like
yeah.
you felt like inspired you?
God, so much. Like I used to just we watched a ton of it because my brother was into it too. So he would
Mhm.
take charge of the TV because he was older and he could beat me
Yeah.
up. So.
Yeah. I'm the
So,
youngest, so
How
I
it
know
used to
that.
go, Gen Z. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I watched whatever he said I could watch, I guess. So, but so some of it I didn't love, like, it wasn't really my thing. But yeah, like just I loved space horror,
Uh-huh.
that's still probably my favorite genre, I would say, is sci-fi horror. So I was like the Alien franchise was like huge to me. I remember like or even like the Terminator franchise as well was
Yeah.
like big, like so just that kind of stuff. But then, I also loved E.T., which is still one of my favorite movies, and it's much different than that because it's much more heartwarming and whatever,
Yes.
Right.
But yeah, kind of
That,
like all those really early kinds of things. And I'm trying to think what else. Tron was another one.
oh,
Like,
yes, of course, Tron.
yeah. I mean, when the first Tron, it's so corny now, but when it first came out,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so funny because so much of our like 70s and early 80s movies are kind of corny now. Although I'd argue Aliens
Oh, it
really
aged
holds
pretty well.
up.
Yeah.
E.T. I think holds up. But I was gonna say E.T. the sci-fi horror of it is humanity, not the alien.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Which,
there were like a lot of like things like that where it's like we're the monsters, and it's
yes,
like,
yes.
I love that stuff. So.
So, our final question for you. Wait, before I get to the final question, is there anything about your Star Wars fandom that we didn't ask that you would like to add?
Yeah, I guess I could just say that, like, first of all, I wouldn't be a published writer probably, or my road to published writing would have been much harder if not for Star Wars.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because I came across this book when I was like quite young. I don't remember how young, but pretty young, called The Science of Star Wars, which was written by Gene Cavellos, who is the director of the Odyssey Writing Workshop. But I didn't know this at the time. I just thought like, oh, science and Star Wars, these are two things I love. So I read the book, and she included her contact information at the end of the book. And so I wrote to her. And the kind of thing you only do when you're young and
Yes.
you're like this cocky kid and you're just like, I'm just gonna write to you. And I don't remember what I said. I know I discussed stuff about the book, and I must have mentioned that I was a science fiction writer because she wrote back and said, I've got this writing workshop, and you're invited to apply to that if you want to do that. And I was so green and so isolated from other writers that I didn't even really know what a writing workshop was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I had like no greater community, basically. I was on my own and I was very self-taught and everything, and I didn't know anything about anything. So in a way that was good because I probably would have been intimidated if I knew how many people apply to these workshops and how many they actually take, which is very few.
Yes.
But I got in, and that was kind of like how I got my toe into the writing community. So
Wow.
since then, that was like the domino effect. And, I'm not going to say I made connections, but I like started to understand more
Yes.
about like how like submitting stories worked. And, there were other writers that I was able to ask questions of. And I've just learned so much since then that it just kind of exploded my world.
Yes.
Which none of it would have happened if I didn't already have an interest in Star Wars and I hadn't picked up that
Yeah.
book, So
Wow.
Yes.
it's like direct influence where I literally wouldn't be talking to you here today if not for that. So
It's almost what Ben Kenobi said. This is your first step into a larger world, and you went from being almost an isolated writer to being to recognizing the larger world of writing and what
Yeah.
it contains.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's very Force metaphysical.
Yes, 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 yes. The
Something there,
hand
like
of the
Dave and
Force.
I
Yeah.
are
It's
about
totally
to
one of those
record.
things where it's like, yeah, if I'd left 5 minutes later, like my whole
Yes.
there's an alternate
Yes.
universe where I never got the book, and it's like,
What us mere
But yeah.
mortals would call the burnt toast theory is actually
Yeah.
the Force, right?
Yes.
the force at work.
The Force
love
at
it.
Work. That sounds like a good title for a nonfiction book, The Force at Work.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I could see like a chicken soup kind of thing, like
Yes,
you tell your
Yes.
story,
yes, yes. Chicken Force for the soul. Copyright. I'm taking it.
He wants it.
So our final question for you is after talking about all this, talking about how Star Wars has always been around you since you were born, sharing it with your brother, seeing Return of the Jedi, and getting that book that kind of solidified the movie for you. Your writing journey, discovering the science of Star Wars and taking that first step into the world of writing where you were introduced into the larger world. slowly feeling represented by Star Wars as I'm always tough with this name,
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize. And being able to kind of see your own self within Star Wars, and that discussion of like Star Wars can be a mirror to our own world, and that mirror being a little bit of an inspiration for you to become a writer, but not just become a writer, but a sci-fi fantasy horror writer. After talking about all this, can you say, what does Star Wars mean to you?
I think Star Wars to me just always represented that your imagination could, in a sense, be limitless. And, we contain worlds within us if we want that, or those of us who are creatives. And so I think it almost like gave me permission, it's just said like, go crazy with this kid, So
That's awesome.
I think that's what it means to me.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Yes. PA, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Really love your story. Really appreciate your viewpoint on Star Wars. Where can people find you?
Well, probably the best place is at my website, pacornell.com. And from there, it's got all my social links. There's a newsletter sign up if you want to do that. That's free as well. But my website gets updated very regularly. So that's kind of like the best starting point that I always give people. So.
And Shoeshine Boy and Cigarette Girl is on the shelves now.
It's like this.
Awesome.
It's such a beautiful cover.
Oh, yeah. You did an amazing job. There's 3 different artists involved with the making of this book. So I'm very proud of my artists.
Yeah, you should be.
They don't belong to me, but we're collaborators. And I honestly, I give them all the credit. The book wouldn't be what it is without them.
So that's on the shelves now, and then you have a book coming up in August. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
18th, my sci-fi fantasy short fiction collection comes out, and it's called The Astronaut Among the Flowers and Other Stories.
Awesome.
And it's got a bunch of, I guess at this point, kind of my earlier stuff, but it goes up to my first Nebula-nominated story, which is Once Upon a Time at the Oakmont, and there's also an award winner there called Splits that won an award in Canada. So that, and there's a couple of ones that weren't published before. So there's new things for those who want something a little fresher. So yeah, and I like to say I didn't put in 2 unpublished stories that I couldn't sell. I put in 2 unpublished stories that I really believe in. And that, it wasn't like no one's buying this, I'm going to throw it into my collection. No, these stories didn't really make the rounds. I was like, I'm going to reserve these for my collection. So I did try and keep it like all good quality stuff, hopefully. And hopefully
preserved stories, not rejected. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Preserved stories.
Like, I'm going to unload my trash on you now.
No. With a title like that, I don't think that people think that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we'll put all those links in the podcast show notes so people can go right down into them and connect directly to your website and your socials.
Awesome.
PA, may the force be with you.
And also with you.